Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Hopeful Void, and this week I thought I would look back a couple months ago, back to when I first started the Heavensward expansion and partook in the Dark Knight job questline, or rather when I started it. Before we start though, I didn't really want to ask you guys this because I know everyone asks any viewer this, but because of YouTube's algorithm, I must ask you this favor, you could say. If you could leave a like on the video, even subscribe if you really want to, it would help me out tremendously, because that's the only way these videos get seen by YouTube's algorithm. As stupid as that is, it is what it is. So if you could just leave a video a like, that'd be great. Also, major spoiler warning for the whole Dark Knight story quest, because I will be talking about it in its entirety, and maybe a story dungeon here and there. So if you have not done the Dark Knight story quest or are thinking of doing it at some point, I would encourage you to go do that first and then come back to this video and hear my thoughts if you want. Also, more on how you can support the channel at the end of the video if you want to. With that out of the way, let's begin. So to start things off, I thought I would talk about what makes this my favorite story out of all the job side quests. I think it's because the way the writing is done, the way it's told, the way its characters are portrayed, it just feels raw. And it feels so unique, you could say. Like, the line that Frey says in the beginning when your character first encounters him, he's been waiting for you to open your eyes. Now, at first, when I first did this quest, I'm like, okay, I mean, we did just fall unconscious after touching the crystal. So I didn't really think anything of it, but looking back at it now after completing the quest, I wonder if it was foreshadowing the end of the level 30 to 50 section of the quest. The fact that quest points out that darkness itself isn't actually a bad thing, no matter how media wants to portray it, no matter how we or people in society in general view darkness. Darkness isn't necessarily a bad thing on its own. Rather, as Frey points out in the first cutscene now, it's a healthy thing. It's a healthy thing to have some darkness. We all have that dark part of ourselves. I think one of the quotes that he said, and I think it was in the near the end part of the first section of the quest chain, where he says, "Stop denying the truth that's been staring back at you all this time," or something similar to that. It just reminds me of, if any of you played Persona or Persona 5, you understand where I'm getting at with this though, but it just reminds me of that psychology theory that I forget who came up with the name for it. I'll probably tell you the name in big bold lettering in the video, but of who came up with the theory about it. But it's the idea that we all have this duality to ourselves, this inner shadow, you could say, and that's who we truly are. I feel like that's what they were basing it off of, that idea, or at least part of it. It's this idea that we deny ourselves the whole truth of who we are, that we don't really necessarily know who we are, that we just go with the flow for the most part, that we just go with whatever people tell us who we are. And it just also points out that I think a lot of people in society, and just in general, don't really do enough self-reflection. But that's just a personal thought, personal anecdote there. But to get back a little bit on track, I just feel like denying the truth about yourself, denying you, is the worst thing you could do to yourself. And another thing Frey points out in this quest that also just brings that point further home is when he says to you, deny it all you like, it won't change anything. It won't change the fact that you are the way you are on the inside. It all boils down to you just accepting you for who you are, and I think that's just a beautiful thing to point out. Because just a little bit more of a personal note on for me, for the majority of my life, I never really asked myself that question. I never really knew who I was, and I feel like that's something we all can relate to. At some point of our lives, we didn't know who we are. We didn't know anything about us until we took a deep look in the mirror and asked ourselves that, and looked deep within ourselves and started to listen to that inner voice of who we are. And one last part about that first section is he also says it's always been your story. It has been your story, and life is a story. And then you go to the section where you first meet Surdurgu. I think that's you pronounce his name. I'm probably pronouncing that horribly wrong, so forgive me. You can tell me in the comments down below how to actually pronounce it. That second part of the quest chain, when you're, I think it's the 50 to 60 portion of the Dark Knight quest chain, where it asks you, what is your reason to be a Dark Knight? Is it because of duty and honor? Not, I would say, I mean, that could be a reason, but it's not the main reason why. And as humorously put in the game, and I just love the way they have the Mughals of all things tell him what the point of being a Dark Knight is. It's not because of duty and honor, as they put it. It's that darkness is born from light. It's not born out of the hate that you have for others, but it's born out of the love that you have for others, that you want to protect them out of love because you care about them. And you'll use the darkness to help achieve that. The heart-to-heart that he and Riley, I think, that's how you pronounce her name. Again, I could be butchering that, so forgive me. But that moment when, you know, they're talking and she's sharing to him how she sees him look at the Temple Knights and how he curses at them and, you know, wants to shred them to pieces. And he admits it, you know, he's honest. And I think that's another huge thing about this whole quest chain, is that it basically tells the player, be honest about yourself. Be honest with your feelings. Share them. Don't keep them bottled up. It's just another huge truth that so many of us seem to forget, is that despite whatever's going on, be honest about how you feel and be honest to yourself. And in that last part of that section of the quest chain, where Surdurgu's confronted with Riley's mother, I feel like the moment when he's about to stab her, and or not stab her, but, you know, like decapitate her, you could say, because that's basically what he was about to do. Let's be honest. And that in that moment, it's really cool how it just shows you, okay, he's actually learned. It show her mercy, even though she's insane and sees her daughter as just like a bastard child. And despite him doing this, Riley tells him it's okay, because she'll never stop hunting them, wanting to kill her. That it's okay, you know, just to kill the mother and be done with it. Sometimes you have to do what has to be done for the ones you love, even if it hurts. And then the next section, the 60 to 70 portion, I wasn't really expecting at all. Like, when they showed I still don't really know who the character was, the boy that is introduced. I don't really know who he was supposed to be. Like, is he supposed to be another part of the player character? Or is he his own entity? Like, I don't know what he was supposed to represent. All I know is he was similar to Frey in that regard, in terms of, like, he wasn't an actual person, but he was like an incarnation of something. I don't really know. I'm still a little confused about that. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys know. I just like that whole bit because that whole part dealt with the aspect of grief and sacrifice and regret. And as someone who went through a similar experience in life, that just like kind of hit me in the gut, because none of us want to regret anything in life. but unfortunately we do. And sometimes we have to ask ourselves, is what we're doing worth it? Is staying true to ourselves and protecting others out of love worth it? And sometimes you have to hurt others in the process. And I think the answer to that question, is it worth it? I think it's a resounding yes, because nothing good ever comes without a cost. What you're doing is worth it. Justice demands it, as Frey once again points out when he just comes out of the darkness out of nowhere. And another thing that the boy points out, the thing that he said kind of got my attention too. He says, all that remains is us and the memory of our sin. I do wonder, whenever I get old, would I ever think that? I feel like a lot of people do that. Too many people do that. I feel like we always look back and always remember all the wrongs we've done. I don't think that's a good way to think. I don't think that's a good way to live either. And near the end of that whole cutscene, the game asks the question, when offered a chance at redemption or at peace, at happiness, would you end your present suffering? I think the majority of people would say yes, but if you did that, would you learn anything? Would you be happy? I don't think so, because it's only through suffering, and it's through that darkness that you become a stronger person, that you become a strong human being. And at the end of the quest chain, the level 80 part, man, that scene when your character's talking to Frey, or rather when Frey's talking to you, the character, that was just a perfect way to end the quest chain, I feel. Because he realized that what he wanted was never really what he wanted. It's like when you think about your deepest desires, what you truly want, and then you ask yourself, is this really what I want? And then you come out with the answer no. That's happened to me sometimes, when it's like when you think you want something, but then you later down the line in life, you figure out that you don't really need that thing, that goal, because you reach it, and then you're like, it's like you're not really satisfied with it. But I think in closing, altogether, I think the Dark Knight job quest is, I think, the best out of all the job quest chains. Not that the rest of them are bad or anything. No, they're also good. The other ones are good, but in their own way. I just think the Dark Knight quest chain is very unique, and it hits home a lot more because it deals with more mature and darker themes than the other ones. Hence the job Dark Knight. Yeah, it just felt a lot more personal, in my opinion. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Let me know what you thought about this, about the whole Dark Knight job quest in the comments down below. And let me know if you guys want to see more videos where I just give my thoughts on the other job quests, and if they were good or not so good. And if you want to support the channel, there is a Patreon coming still. I know I said that in the last video, and it's still coming. It's not a George R.R. Martin situation, don't worry. It's not one of those things where I keep saying it's coming, but it never comes. If you want a good alternative to YouTube where it's ad-free, check my channel out on Odyssey.com. And also, I want to leave you with two quotes Frey says to your character at the end of it, and I think it's just very heartwarming and just rings a lot of truth. We are the stories we tell ourselves. The brave hero, the tortured soul, the altruist, the pragmatist. They will tell you who they see. But you, and you alone, know who you are. Now comes your part. To cloak yourself in the fiction. To breathe life into the dead. To give a voice to the voiceless.